how do you see the advancement today of the basic income in the several parts of the world?
Oh, it's amazing the way it's taken off. I became interested in basic income in 1980 when the interest in it was dying over most of the world. And for the 80s and the 90s, there seemed to be little to no interest anywhere from my perspective in the United States. I discovered BN in 1998, and just to go to a BN conference and to be in a room with other people who supported this idea was a big novel thing. Now, the movement didn't even seem like a movement back then.
Yes.
It just seemed like people talking about it, talking about this policy that could be decades away. But then, slowly, it began rising in ways a lot of us didn't notice at the time. It began to take off. What I call the third wave of the basic income movement started to take off in around 2011 with the Namibian pilot, the Indian pilot, followed by the citizens' initiatives in Switzerland and in the European Union. And this then combined with activists piling onto it, and climate change activists talking about, the Occupy movement talking about it, the 99% movement about it. Suddenly everyone is talking about it, and it has been growing so noticeably every year since 2012. And now, even in the United States, it's taking off in major ways. First, in the last few years, we started two pilot projects in the United States, two major pilot projects, and then a couple of other smaller pilot projects, and funding Give Directly in Kenya. And then, just in the past year, a man named Andrew Yang is not only running for president and supporting basic income, but he has made basic income the centerpiece of his policy. And he's surprisingly an entrepreneur with no government experience is in the race ahead of senators and ahead of governors and ahead of members of Congress. And he's gaining, and he's campaigning on basic income, and he's quoting people like Philippe Pomparesh and Scott Santens, and he's gaining attention to the basic income movement in ways we didn't think we'd see in America for years. So the movement is taking off.
You have followed the movement in so many continents on Earth. In Latin America, you have also followed in which places?
Well, to some extent. I wrote the U.S. Big newsletter from 1999 to 2010, and then I was co-writer of the BN News Flash and one of the co-founders of Basic Income News from 2010 until about 2016. And I still do some writing for it. And I followed the movement very closely during those years. Of course, one of the most important things that happened very early to help spark this third wave was the efforts with you and President Lula in creating the Bolsa Familia, and specifically saying this is a step towards basic income. Yeah. Now, another thing that was happening that really important for the basic income movement across Latin America was the movement towards conditional cash transfers. That's not a basic income, but it is much closer to basic income than more traditional welfare state policies. And what we've learned from conditional cash transfers from there and from Africa and from South Asia is that the easier it is to meet the conditions and the less restrictions there are on the cash, the more effective they are in helping people, which implies the closer you get to basic income, the better that is. And conditional cash transfers really all across Latin America. I can't name all the countries, from Mexico down to Argentina. You have different countries doing it in different ways. Bolsa Familia being the largest of them. And these have helped make the case for basic income and have sparked basic income movements in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Mexico, in Chile, and many other countries.
Karl
Yes.
Widerquist, I want to thank you very much and tell you that once more in this young conference, I become more and more enthusiastic about the basic income proposal.
And I thank you, Eduardo. I really appreciate what you've done for the basic income movement and for the fight for true democracy in Brazil.
Good luck.